Hello everyone, my name is Francesca LOIA and I am a research fellow at the Department of Economics Management and Institutions of the University of Naples Federico II. I'm going to discuss the paper of which I am one of co-authors together with Professor VONA, Dr. Basile and Dr. Capobianco, entitled Decommissioning of Offshore Platform, an Empirical Analysis in the Italian Oil and Gas Industry. Increasingly limited land and resources worldwide have steered national and international attention toward global issues affecting the environment, such as the decommissioning of offshore platforms. The number of offshore assets reaching their end life is rising, and their decommissioning process is increasingly receiving attention by the oil and gas companies and local governments. In particular, decommissioning can be defined as the final stage of the life cycle of an industrial facility, which aims to balance the financial cost, collective well-being, and environment. Even there are many efforts towards establishing international best practices in this industry, a broad perspective regarding the challenges and opportunities emerging from the offshore decommissioning is still missing. The work is articulated in the following parts. First of all, a literature review has been carried out regarding the decommissioning of offshore oil and gas platforms, with particular reference to the stakeholders' perspective related to the future of this installation. The section 3 is related to the methodological section defined through an exploratory approach that followed the case study. After the results of the analysis regarding the Italian context have been discussed by highlighting the key role of circular economy principles regarding the future of the offshore platforms. Finally, the main theoretical and practical implications, conclusions, and directions for future research have been discussed. Generally, the end-of-life options for offshore infrastructure include total removal, in situ decommissioning, relocation offshore, as well as partial decommissioning. The policy of removal, which are mostly adopted by regulation frameworks, require demanding disposal costs and can damage the natural habitats which have developed close to the platforms. On the other hand, the platform, if left in place, will slowly disintegrate and collapse, with full corrosion expected over 500 years. Over the last decades, international and national regulatory, technological, and ideological frameworks have changed significantly by pushing towards a new way to consider the decommissioning. In fact, albeit each offshore platform requires its own customized approach to decommissioning, the reuse of some materials or the reconversion of these assets might provide opportunities from an economic, social, and environmental perspective, with an impact on a large number of stakeholders related to the marine research, renewable energy, and tourism field. In this sense, the decommissioning of offshore platform involves a multitude of stakeholders which can be divided into the classification of direct and indirect. The decommission can be considered as a global issue because there is increasing pressure from a growing number of indirect stakeholders, including NGOs, environmental activities, and so on. On the other hand, local governments, residents, environmental and safety experts, tourism governments are directly involved in the decisions regarding the future of local offshore platforms, in particular the reconversion of offshore platforms in multi-purpose island could carry out several returns in terms of development of economic activities and ecotourism initiatives. Therefore, as emerged by the literature, the process of decision-making about the future of offshore platforms regards a multitude of different actors belonging to a variety of fields. In such a scenario, this work aims to investigate the main stakeholders' perception and opinions regarding the future of these assets and the opportunities and challenges related to their decommissioning. In particular, we decided to carry out an empirical analysis based on the definition of a case study. Specifically, the Italian context of offshore platforms has been selected for the analysis. In fact, in Italy, there are 136 platforms which are nearing the end of their production cycle and will have to be dismantled. Only in the context of the Adriatic Sea, Italian oil and gas companies installed 80 gas platforms over the last 50 years. Specifically, in the time period between 2019 and 2020, the empirical analysis was conducted. The in-depth exploration of the perception about the decommissioning of offshore platforms has been based on a range of primary data collected by multiple choice questionnaire and in-depth interview. First of all, semi-structured questionnaires were administered online to several Italian stakeholders belonging to the decommissioning industry. All questionnaires were collected and then processed with Excel 2019. Additionally, the case study was conducted through the implementation of semi-structured interviews submitted to 3 experts of different business areas related to tourism sector, fisheries industry, and circular economy ecological initiatives. First of all, we analyzed the demographic characteristics of the sample related to the questionnaire. In particular, among 33 respondents, most of them belongs to the cluster of age 51-60. Also, the majority of them have a degree and a high level of education too. Specifically, the respondents mainly work in the public sector. For instance, some of them are involved in the local governments and belong to the North Adriatic Sea area. Afterwards, the participants highlighted the important role of local governments, animal and environmental protection bodies, and international governmental bodies in the process of decommissioning. On the other hand, the diving club also is considered as a key partner. In addition, the participants shed light on the importance of circular economic initiative as well as activities connected with underwater and fishing events as value co-creation driver during the end life of offshore platforms. Furthermore, many of the respondents highlight regarding the fundamental purpose of the decommissioning of offshore platforms the crucial role of the circular economy principles, which push to reuse the waste derived from decommissioned platforms for other production processes. Also, by considering the semi-structured interviews, other significant findings can be discussed in accordance with the previous results. In particular, blue growth, green energy, and touristic and recreational activities are key drivers in the process of reconversion of offshore platforms. Indeed, the platforms can host underwater flora and fauna and amplify the maritime macroenvironment, as well as can become a recreational tourist point of interest for several activities such as photojournalists, diving sports, and so on. Additionally, readapted platforms can produce renewable energy thanks to systems based on wind, solar, and tidal energy. Based on the results carried out by the analysis, circular economy principles have emerged related to the decommissioning process as a value co-creation driver regarding the future of these structures. Indeed, the materials collected from an offshore platform can be sent to recycle services for reducing raw material extractions. Always in line with the circular economy principles, the results of the analysis highlight the high potential of the idea of a multipurpose offshore platform. The commissioned platform, once removed, anything that can be recycled can be turned into strategic hub which could host valuable and sustainable activities in terms of renewable energy, blue growth, and tourism. Concluding, the decommissioning of offshore platforms represents a big and controversial challenge which has acquired always more attention over the years due to its environmental, social, and economic impact. Indeed, the high costs involved and the ecological considerations push to implement the circular economy principles during the decommissioning process by hypothesizing the reuse of certain assets and the alternative use or reconversion of these platforms in multi-use platforms at sea, which represent an interesting solution for the creation of marine areas in which to start and develop sustainable and economic activities which include renewable energy, sea protection, and tourism and recreation initiatives. Therefore, by leveraging on the concept of circular economy, which involves keeping products in use for as long as possible to extract the maximum value from them, there are significant opportunities to unlock the value from the equipment and materials used in the oil and gas extraction, also once the oil field is exhausted. However, this investigation provides preliminary understandings that pave the way for future examination for a deeper understanding on the decommissioning of oil and gas platforms. In our case, we focus only in the Italian context. Therefore, in the next step, it could be useful to expand the inquiry through questionnaires with international experts and scholars in the oil and gas industry. Also, it could be interesting to define a sustainable business model able to broadly describe how the commissioning of offshore platforms can create, deliver, and capture value for all its stakeholders without depleting the natural, economic, and social capital. In addition, it could be needful to carry out a pestle analysis in the context of the decommissioning. In fact, this kind of analysis Originally designed as an assessment tool of the external macro environment in which an industry or business operates, could be useful in identifying and understanding the key political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecological parameters that can affect the complex process such as the decommissioning of offshore platforms. Our presentation is ended. Thank you for the attention. We welcome all your questions and suggestions.